And some folks may be trickling in, and that is perfectly okay. We have some of our staff and peer advisors that will be able to let them in as we go. But welcome, and we're excited to host our first virtual program for our campus organizations, but also recognize that we have a diverse audience with us today. Our audience probably will consist of advisors that work with campus organizations in one way or another. Also staff that support campus orgs throughout the academic year, whether it's working with them with the reservations or funding or some of the individual spaces that they host on campus. And I'll start with introductions. So my name is Darlene, Director of Campus Organizations and Volunteer Programs. And I am eager to learn a little bit more about what our campus organizations are needing during this time of transition. And at the same time, we are looking forward to being able to share some resources and tools with you all. And I'll give some time to have our staff also introduce themselves. I'll turn it over to Angie Keem.
Hi everyone, good to see you all. My name is Angie Keem. I'm the Assistant Director here at Campus Organizations and Volunteer Programs. And then now I'll let Selena introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Selena Bustios and I am the Program Coordinator here with Campus Orgs and Volunteer Programs.
One additional staff that we also have is Nicola Noe, the Administrative Resource Coordinator, who has been playing an integral role in answering and fielding some of the questions coming from our campus orgs. And we also have our peer advisors, maybe they'll just wave, that are also here joining us and also will be available throughout the spring quarter to help answer and help provide support and help answer any questions. So just a little bit of housekeeping or logistics before we move forward is a little bit about Zoom. So we plan on having about a 30-minute presentation, sharing resources, sharing tools, about how to make that virtual transition for your organization and how to continue to become engaged during this time, how to maybe some ideas on recruitment or retention, thinking about officer transition, as well as sharing some of the COVP resources, as well as campus resources. And we also want to leave the second half of the time to be able to hear from our campus organizations, some specific questions, or even if there's ideas that you have, we welcome your thoughts and your feedback as well. We are going to also be recording this session, so just keep that in mind, so we can make it available on our website for folks that maybe couldn't participate today. We also have one of our peer advisors, Amy, who is going to be doing the closed captioning to help out with that aspect and keep it more as accessible as possible. And the chat room is available for anybody to type the questions. For right now, we plan on having it be, once we get into the Q&A, we will facilitate the questions. But if there really is something that somebody wants to share or voice their opinion, their thoughts, we also will once we get to that component, we can talk about that section. All right, so a little bit about this session then. Why we're having the virtual transition for your organization is really about the impacts on the organizations. We definitely have been feeling a lot of what our campus orgs are feeling in the disappointments and empathize with our groups in not being able to host the activities and the events that you plan on hosting or providing for the campus, and that in many cases where our campus organization leaders have been planning and practicing and putting a lot of hard work and effort into each and every activity that they do. So we definitely feel for you all. But at the same time, we want to help you all move forward and be able to provide those opportunities for engagement in a different way. So campus organizations events were probably one of the most impacted, where we want students to be first and foremost safe and healthy and well. And that meant canceling events and working with our campus partners like Student Centered Event Services to make sure that there was the restrictions were going to be happening where there was no events or in-person events on campus. And I'll share a little bit about some new resources that will help you in a little bit too. But with the cancellation of events, it means that there's no in-person events, but again, we're focusing on transitioning to how you can do these programs and activities in a different way. Funding is also impacted, where are working with our campus partners in ACCI. They're working on developing some virtual activities or resources for campus organizations to be able to access funds or view their account balance, whatever it may be. But they're also in the process of transitioning and figuring out what are ways that they can operate differently during the spring quarter. And even though we also have some funding opportunities, those will still get put into your account, it'll be processed, but the money will not be able to be accessed until we return to campus, at least for now. Keep in mind that things may always change, and we ask for that maximum flexibility as much as possible. And one more, let's see, because of the cancellation of events, if there's postponement for later in the quarter, that might be a possibility. But because we are going to be moving on to a new registration platform, the re-registration will open up in July, mid-July. That means that anything from July and on, we're going to ask all the campus organizations to be able to wait to make their requests for the new academic year at that point. But keep an eye out for information, as that's going to be sent out via email to all of the campus organization signers, and just be aware of when that date's coming up. I shared about the impact a little bit, and we did hear from our campus partners from Student-Centered Event Services that they're also working on developing new resources for campus organization. One includes the UCI Now app, where the UCI Now app used to work only with the events that were happening with Student Center, those that were reserved through their venues. But now they're working on having the UCI Now app work as a virtual event calendar or a hub for activities to be able to see all the different activities that campus organizations are providing. That will be up soon, but just keep an eye out for that as well. That also includes being able to highlight or promote study groups as well as social activities. The second one from Student-Centered Event Services is also the ability to support campus organizations that are interested in hosting large-scale virtual events. For example, they are looking into the possibility of being able to host a Zoom session for up to 1,000 participants. And we'll talk a little bit about Zoom later, but just keep that in mind that there's some future resources coming. And before I transition, I just will always say that we value all the work that our campus organizations do the whole year round. And we look forward to learning with you all and helping everybody figure out how to transition your organization, how to continue providing that campus spirit, even though we're in a unique spring quarter of remote learning. Thank you. I will transition to Selena.
Hello, everyone. So starting off, I think the first thing we want to have you all think about is reflecting on what your org's goals and mission is, and really keeping to the core of that. So there's some things that we want to help you to consider when thinking about how to maybe program, what you should be doing with your organization at this time. I know there might be a lot of questions about, should we try to move everything that we were going to do in spring to virtual, or do we not do anything at all? So some things to consider are really sitting down with your executive board and thinking about, what is the purpose of your organization? What are your goals? Why must things be done? So there might be some things where you're like, if we do want to host every single thing we were planning for spring, but you're feeling really stressed out about this, does it have to be done? And what kind of impact is it making? Can the impact happen virtually? And maybe if it's a program that may not have the best impact virtually, then maybe you don't need to have it, or you can plan it at a future date. So really think about, what are your org's priorities during this time, And every event or program that you're trying to plan or social, anything that you're trying to do with your organization should come back to really meeting the core purpose and goal of the org. Really also, I think I don't know if there should be necessary to feel like you have to transition every event that you had planned to a virtual format. And I know a lot of you, like Darlene mentioned, have put a lot of time and effort into the programs and events you were going to have in the spring. But maybe at this time, you don't have to do every single one of them. So know that it's okay to let go of a program or push it off to another time or next spring quarter. And then consider continuing to build community. So have a check-in time either during your regular scheduled meetings or set aside another time to do check-ins where that's the main focus, and see how your members are doing. And just remember that sometimes your organization may be a home or a safe space for someone, and they may be really looking forward to your meetings or a time to check in with everyone else and be in community. And then lastly, consider what your members may want or need at this time. So maybe they, you know, are trying to transition as well, just as everyone else is, to this remote learning virtual format of work and school. And so really think about, again, what do you want to provide to your members, but also consider where they're at. And you all know your members best. So depending on what type of what type of org you are, depending on like if you do a lot of community service work with your organization or you bring in a lot of guest speakers, think about your members. Do they need this at this time, and will they be engaged in programs like that if you put them on? And again, you can always invite guest speakers and host them on Zoom. You can find online services to do from your home. And so those things can be like sending letters to frontline workers through this pandemic, or virtual tutoring sessions for K through 12 students. So really relating it back to your organization's goals. And I think it's also important to consider how engaged they'll be with these programs that you're putting on. And I feel like for all of us now, it's a little bit of a trial and error. So I think we could say is try it out, and if it works, that's great. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too. Then I'll pass it off now to Angie.
All right, so we talked about the purpose and things to consider, and so we want to focus in on Zoom a little bit because we've been getting a lot of questions about Zoom. And one of the major questions is that, can we upgrade my Zoom account to the premium one where you can get more than 40 minutes? Well, did you all know that all of you, students, staff, and faculty, already have access to the premium Zoom, which means that you have unlimited time. You can invite up to 300 people. And I have the link provided here. This link is also on our website. So you can go to that link, and what you're going to see is uci.zoom.us. This is where you're going to need to go to make sure that you have the premium account. So some of you may have already created an account through Zoom, and that's probably why you have a 40-minute time limit. But make sure you go to uci.zoom.us to do the join feature, to host your meetings, and then to also migrate your account. So if you already created an account with your UCI email address, you can then migrate it over so that way you can get the premium account. So we've been getting a lot of these questions, so please share this with your members, other student leaders, that you do have access to this benefit. And so some Zoom features we want to introduce to you all, and we're all learning about this as well. So if you have any tips, feel free to share it later on. So you can host breakout sessions. So if you haven't done that, what you do is if you have a larger group, larger meeting, you can pick here on the corner breakout rooms where you can put people in smaller groups and you can do activities there and then come back to the larger groups. There's also the chat feature where you can go ahead and chat, ask questions and engage that way. Record your sessions so that way if anybody is unable to attend, you can continue to provide that just in case people are busy and unable to tune in live. We mentioned closed captioning. That's also another option for those who need that accessible support. We have polling. So if you want to do a poll during your activity, you can do that as well. And as you can see now, we're also doing a screen share. So if you want to do a screen share and have people follow along and doing what you need to do, you can also do that as well. So trial and error and play around with everything, because that's kind of how we're going to be learning. Okay. So outside of Zoom, so we did have questions about connectivity or access to Zoom and other things like that. There are other there's other tools that you can use. Some of you are already using some of these tools. So things like GroupMe, WhatsApp, Discord, those are all messenger focused apps where you can do video, you can do text chats, you can do voice chats. There's also Slack, Office Teams, and you can utilize Facebook Live and Instagram Live to post announcements and events that are happening. And then of course, Google Hangouts, depending on what the accessibility looks like for your team and what works best. So that's maybe some discussion you can have amongst your board members. So in addition to the tools for communication, we have tools for staying organized. So for some of you, this might be the time to plan and strategically plan for the upcoming year or transition your leadership from this year to next. So utilize tools like Trello, Notion, Google Drive. A lot of you are using Google Drive already, and HackMD. So these are examples of organization websites that can help you store your information and transition knowledge. That way it gets passed down from group to group. Stay creative. Now that we're being virtual, we're gonna need to have a little more creativity. And so one cool thing that UCI is offering is that there is a special license for students to use for Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's utilizing like Photoshop and other Adobe apps for free up until May 31st. So the link there, you can see how you can inquire to get that onto your own laptop or tablet or device. And then if you don't need that, or if you're a complete beginner, you can use this website called Canva. If you haven't heard of it, they have free templates. You can make flyers, social media posts. It's really easy, and they have a lot of templates, and it's very user-friendly. So definitely utilize these resources to stay creative. All right, so we talked about some of the tools, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the content. So thinking about member retention and engagement. And like Selena had mentioned before, that everybody here is going through a transition. So everyone's priorities are different. And so we want to make sure that as you approach moving forward with your organization, to check in with yourself, to make sure you need to do what you need to do to take care of yourself during this time. And then also with your team and members, knowing that there's going to be folks who are going to be prioritizing their basic needs, or their family, their mental health, their academics. So this might be a time for you to keep that in mind as you plan and moving forward, and might see that folks might have to adjust their commitment levels. All right, so let's talk about some meetings and how to make your meetings engaging. And so one thing to note about meetings is that determine your purpose of your meeting. So is your meeting going to be focused on community building, or is the meeting more about focused on operations and going over agenda items and so forth? So having that focus will allow you to have more direction and allow your members to know what's happening. So some examples of things that can help make your meetings more engaging is continue on icebreakers. If you've been doing icebreakers, do it. Continue to do that. One icebreaker, a simple question, if it best suits the group, is share an item that's around you or something that is around your workspace. That's always nice to share. Like I mentioned before, breakout rooms. So if you have a larger group, maybe split them up into smaller groups to have smaller conversations and have more intimate dialogue. So that way it's not too overwhelming if there's about 50 plus in the group. And then play games. So if you haven't heard of this website, it's called Kahoot. And Kahoot allows you to make your own quizzes, and then you all can play together online by using your phone as the as your kind of like remote, and you can play along. And this can be used for multiple ways. You can use it for fun in terms of like, you know, socializing. And an example is having everybody submit their baby pictures, and then having a social where everybody plays it and guesses which baby is who. Or you want to focus on career development, and maybe your quiz is about, you know, what do you put on your resume? What do you put on your cover letter? What are some job interview etiquette? And then have discussions about that as you quiz your student staff or your student members. Like Selena mentioned, depending on your goals and mission, if you want to continue your discussions and guest speakers, do so in keeping in mind if that's the interest of the students. Another thing is to celebrate your members. So building community means celebrating birthdays, accomplishments, graduating seniors. So finding ways to build those connections, because sometimes when we're far away, we just want to have that personal touch or, you know, just connection. So it's important to see how you can engage folks and make them feel like I still see you and I hear you. Another way is to put folks in smaller groups, in addition to the breakout groups, but assigning people to I know some organizations already have families, so you can do that, and buddy people up so that way they have someone during this time to link up. Social media. So utilize social media. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, utilize it as best as you can. I know you all are experts at it, so tagging each other, posting flashback photos of each other. You've been seeing all of those fill in the blanks, where people write their, you know, fill in the blank Instagram stories, bingo, where you can see who's done what. Your social media challenges like see a pup, tag a pup, or your baby photo challenge. So create your own, think of something that's unique to your organization that you can tag people. So that way you're continuing to build that community there. Some more ideas, movie watch parties. I know Netflix has a watch party app, but you can also just get your Zoom account and just watch a movie together as well. There's also virtual museum tours, escape rooms that you can all do together, hot topics and hot drinks. So that's like getting together and having coffee or tea and having a chance to talk to each other about that. Or do contests like best Zoom Virtual Background Contest. You can create your own backgrounds and see if you can see who does the best. A few ones that are mentioned here that I've heard that have been good have been the app House Party, where you can play games with each other on your phone. Jackbox TV is another activity that you can do as well. And then there's a link with more suggestions for engaging activities. All right, so that's a little bit more about engaging, and now we're going to transition to officers.
So for officer transition, several questions have come in about how do we make this happen. For a lot of our groups, your transition happens in spring, and some groups, I understand, might have already gone through this transition, whether it was in the winter or fall. So again, just understanding that each organization is unique. But a few tips and tools for officer transition. During this time might be a good opportunity to review your constitution, work with your executive board to make updates. Update your position descriptions of your roles and responsibilities, whether that might be creating new roles as well or changing up what worked and what didn't work based on this past year. That goes hand in hand with updating your important documents, perhaps writing an end of the year report for the next team to be able to get a better idea of the context and the activities that had happened throughout the year. Also developing a plan for re-registration. As I mentioned, our re-registration will take place in July. And remember that it must be the new signers, the new leadership that will be the ones initiating the registration. But often there is sometimes that lack of communication or just hard during the transition. So this might also just, again, be a good time to develop that plan for the change of signers or who will take on the new responsibilities. And even though you're virtual, you can still use these collaborative tools that Angie shared, like Zoom or the communication tools, to be able to host your elections. And elections, you could use you could use Zoom for speeches, or use the polls for being able to vote confidentially, as well as, again, other resources and online tools. And remember that we will also host the I Love My Org collaborative conversations that will happen during the spring quarter. And just keep an eye out for it. But the collaborative conversations will specifically focus on officer transition during this unique spring quarter.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about how our department, campus organizations, and volunteer programs can support you during this time. And we can go even more depth from this presentation by our other resources that we provide. So one thing that I would encourage all of you to do is to check out our FAQ page. So you can see a photo of it here. You can find it under our resources tab. You can also find it on, at the bottom of our homepage. And we are going to be updating this FAQ page with all of the questions that we're getting in and answering them on this FAQ page. And so check that out first. And then if you have further questions and you have individual questions, we are going to start. You can sign up for advising as well on our FAQ page. But also, if you have other questions, you can chat with us live. So we will be hosting a couple of different times where we'll be live, and you'll be able to jump on and just ask us quick questions. And you'll see on our homepage, there's a little orange bar at the bottom of the page that says Let's Chat. So we'll be posting our times that we'll be online very soon. And it'll be probably consistent for the rest of the spring quarter. So it's almost like a drop-in advising session. So feel free to do that. And then, of course, we can meet with you virtually through Zoom. And you can sign up for an appointment with myself, Angie, or Darlene through our advising webpage, which is at the top of our top tab on our website. And we all have different times. It doesn't matter who you meet with. So feel free to jump on there if you have further questions about planning events at this time, planning for strategic planning for the future, anything we're willing to help out and answer. In addition to that, we do have a few departments that work really closely with our campus organizations and provide different resources. So feel free to reach out to them. So we have the Cross-Cultural Center, Division of Career Pathways, Alumni Association, and the LGBT Resource Center, who provide different resources, workshops. Also, some of them also provide advising. So feel free to reach out to them if you need additional help.
And I will also add that that's not an exhaustive list, as we also have many of our groups that affiliate with our sorority and fraternity life. And they also have their staff available to provide advising and resources, as well as our graduate programs that may affiliate with the professional schools.
All right, so we'll pass it off to Juan and Melanie, who will talk about our upcoming virtual events.
Hi everyone, my name is Melanie Martinez and I'm a peer advisor at COVP. So some upcoming COVP virtual events that we do have are our Anteater Awards. So we want to make sure you all keep an eye out for that. You may or may not be heard of it. Hopefully you have, but towards the end of spring quarter, we do go ahead and honor our honorary organizations on campus that were very outstanding among everybody. Of course, everybody is amazing in their own way. But these organizations do apply to get honored at these awards. And then, so as we finalize our logistics, we will be sending out the date and time, so please do keep an eye out for that. And then we do also have I Love My Org.
Hello everyone, my name is Juan. So as Darlene mentioned before, I Love My Org, keep an eye out for that. So this next one that we're gonna have, the collaborative conversation, is gonna cover officer transitions and the way in which we can go about transitioning leadership within our organizations. We know a lot of organizations kind of struggle with doing this year to year. So we feel like this would be something really beneficial for all of you, especially now given the circumstances that we're in and the virtual transitions that we're making. It might be a little bit hard. So it might be really beneficial to kind of hear what everyone else is doing and also hear what some of the advice that we have for all of you.
And then we also do have Organization of the Month. So this is also a place where your organization can also get recognized at Anteater Awards, and then you also do receive a monetary reward if chosen. So it's an application on our website where you detail about all your accomplishments and then what your organization is about. And then we are actually picking 2 winners for the month of April, so make sure to do that. The deadline is the 20th of every month, so you still have about 10 days for the month of April. So make sure to apply to that.
Yeah, and on top of the funding, we also go ahead and shout y'all out and all the amazing work that you guys do. And then on top of that, you'd also be recognized at Anteater Awards for the Anteater's Choice. So that's awesome.
Okay, this is just a quick, a few different resources that students may want to take advantage of if needed, whether it's a laptop, equipment, services that the campus is able to provide. So just make sure that you take down the link or reach out to us for any follow-ups, as there are a lot of new resources during this time. And this is just to highlight the unique number of organizations that we have. So we'll go on to the next one. I think yes. Okay, so at this point, and any of our staff and students can also jump in. We're ready for the questions and to hear a little bit from our campus organizations. Is that correct? Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, we know that we have some staff also on the Zoom call that also have expertise in different ways or resources they may want to share. So we open it up to any participant, whether staff or student, that either has a question or wants to share any best practices. And these are just some things to get you going, you know, thinking about what are some of the ways that your org has made the transition, what's worked for you, maybe what hasn't, or what are you still seeking at this point? You could use the raise your hand on the participants, and we'll make sure to unmute you to ask your question or your comments. Any questions? Maybe from our peer advisors, if there's anything you wanted to share?
I can speak a little bit. So hi, my name is Christy, and I'm a peer advisor for COVP also. And I just wanted to say that within like some organizations like ASUCI that I'm in, we've been transitioning to like weekly online meetings, and we also have assigned one-on-ones where we get matched with another member, and we'll have like little meetings individually. So that's one way that we're transitioning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juan. So aside from my involvement here with the COVP office, I'm an admin intern, and something that we do there. Well, recently we had our first speaker come in, and we had our Zoom call. We invited our speaker over, and we kind of just muted everyone. She kind of spoke about what her journey was like outside of like, going to after she graduated college, the steps she took to make it out and to get to where she was now. And I feel like since a lot of organizations do things like this, where they bring out speakers to kind of talk about, you know, whether that be their life story or something motivational, something like that would be really cool. And I feel like it just kind of works on Zoom. So that's definitely something that everyone can kind of like look into doing if they're not already doing that.
Thank you both for your comments and suggestions.
We did see a hand earlier, but they put their hand down. So I don't know if you want to still speak. If you do, oh, there you are. I will go ahead and unmute you. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your org.
Cool. So I'm Avi. I'm the co-president of the student council of the ICS school. So one thing we're doing this quarter to accommodate for the transition to a virtual environment is usually every spring quarter we celebrate the ICS Day, which is basically just a carnival that's ICS themed. But since we can't do that this quarter, we decided to go with a virtual scavenger hunt of sorts. So the whole purpose of our council and ICS Day is to celebrate and explore the different kinds of things ICS has to offer. And so our hope with this virtual scavenger hunt is that students get to explore more of what the school has to offer in terms of student life, academic resources and help. And at the end, we are going to be awarding a prize to the top 3 students who managed to find all the clues and the answers to those clues.
Thank you everyone for sharing. Anyone else would have anything to share or have questions? Looks like we have a question on the chat. Hi, thanks for the presentation. Do you know of ways to prevent interruptions, Zoom bombing during meetings? What are some precautions we can take? So some of the things that we've been advised to do has been doing the password. So if you create the Zoom session, creating a certain password, sometimes it'll automate and create a password for you, but you can also create your own password. What we did for this event as well is we didn't send a password until the day of the event. So that way folks who are interested in the event will receive it that day. So that way they can look for it as well. And one of the things about the Zoom bombing or the Zoom admin host features is that you can control who gets into the room. So there's this waiting room feature. So you can pretty much screen folks before they go in. So if you want to check who's RSVP'd into the event or your group, you can double check that. And then you have also the capability to let to kick someone out as well. Hopefully you don't get to that point. And but if you do come across anything that is very disruptive and that might be impacting folks, you can contact our office if you need to report it to OEOD or student conduct, because we want to make sure that we address it. But thanks for that question.
So a tip that's also been shared with us is to just be cautious of where you post your Zoom, it's better to create a specific Zoom or set appointment for the event or activity that you're going to host, rather than posting or publishing your unique Zoom number. Thanks for that question.
Okay, Ariel, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I'd just like to share some tips that my orgs are doing to transition. Oh, I'm Ariel. I'm a peer advisor for COVP, and my org, Red Cross, we are a community service-oriented org. And since we are transitioning to be more remote, we are able to actually find online community service events to keep our club engage with our members, but also serve the community as well. As for engaging with our members, we still provide socials online. So as we mentioned before in some previous slides, that there's like online games and apps that you can play like together, like on Zoom, you can like share a screen and you can put up a game and like have members join, or like you can watch a movie together, or do other various icebreakers to retain your members. And we mainly utilize all these like online platforms like Zoom and Discord, and we're still able to not only continue like the community service that our org provides, but also engage and retain that membership in our club.
Thank you, Ariel. Other questions, either through raising hand or chat, we can answer.
What I wanted to add is that your comments or your questions also could be outside of what we've discussed in the presentation. There could be topics that we forgot to discuss or didn't think about. And we genuinely do feel that our campus organization leaders often bring out this uniqueness and originality. So we welcome you to contribute your ideas.
We have a question that came in. With ASUCI elections coming up, candidates are trying to get endorsements or some sort of clout from our orgs. My org personally does not want to be involved in this, but sometimes we get requests or shout outs regarding the elections, which draws unwanted attention to us. Do you have any suggestions on how to discourage and prevent this? That's a really good question. Let's see. I don't know if Darlene has any.
No, it is a good question, and sometimes we don't have the answer right away. Yeah. And Avi, I think for this one, it brings up a good point that we want to circle back then to our ASUCI partners and just touch base with them and see what recommendations they have. Whatever they share with us, we will make sure to be able to provide that on our website with our virtual programming, our resources or tips. Mm-hmm. For students, for our campus organizations. And ultimately, from a staff perspective, I don't share any opinions for who to vote for or whatnot, but I do commend you for reminding us that the elections are coming up and they are happening virtually. So what I can recommend is just make sure to vote. And we'll follow up with your specific question, Avi, on our website. And maybe this is a good time too, if any of our staff from other units want to share any resources or any specific information, feedback that may be impacting the groups that they work with specifically.
All right, Jackie from Student-Centered Event Services. Yeah, well, there you go. Just unmuted you.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm one of the event planners at the Student Center. I guess one of my tips that I've recently, well, I've noticed in some places, I would say don't feel discouraged if you're having a virtual event and you're not getting as much attendance as you think, or like you wanting to like really engage but people don't have their videos on. Like it's okay. Like I think everyone's still getting into the flow, figuring out what they want to do and what they feel comfortable with. So I'd say just stay positive and keep programming and doing your thing. And any effort is it's appreciated.
Thanks, Jackie. We did have a question that came in. I don't know if anyone from ASUCI is here, but there was a question about reimbursements for your programs. And so one thing to note, and Darlene had mentioned this in the beginning, that that the ASUCI club accounts are currently, the office is closed, and they're working on creating some kind of online system for folks to start doing transactions, but currently their clubs and orgs are unable to seek reimbursements at the moment or withdraw or deposit money. But once we have more information about about utilizing ASUCI club accounts, we will definitely share that information with you all.
We'll give like another 30 seconds and then if there's no further questions, we'll finish up our final slides, which is just one or two, and then we'll let you all be for enjoy the rest of your evening. I think, yeah, Angela, we could proceed to the final slides.
Do you want to do this one or keep going?
Oh, sure, yeah, we talked about some of these, like pros and cons, the systems you're using. Some of you shared the feedback, which has been great. And any concerns that you have. You've touched on some of the election processes or transition, as well as the funding component of your organization. So thank you for that. And the final one is just thanking all of you for spending an hour with us on your Friday evening. As we said, we're also figuring out when are the best times, the best dates, and we're all in a new uncertain world, so we're figuring this out along with you all. We look forward to hearing from you, whether it's through our chat on our website, our advising hours, or connecting to our organizations through our other staff and resources that occur throughout campus. But please do continue to do the great work that you do. And this is a challenge for you all to just rethink and reimagine what engagement looks like for you this spring quarter and how you can bring the best out of your members through this difficult time. And finally, it's really just staying well and wishing the best for you and your loved ones. Final thing is, don't forget to connect with us on social media.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of cool events coming up. Hopefully we're trying to, if you guys want more information about how we're going to go about them, you guys can go ahead and follow us there. If you want to reach out to us with any questions you might have, go ahead and email us there. Go to our website there. And yeah, please enjoy the dabbing Peter the Anteater.
And just want to make a note of in the chat there, if you do have any questions about ASUCI club accounts, there's 2 email addresses that you can send your questions directly to as well. And we also have this information on our website as well. I think yeah, and if you have any last questions, feel free to, like Juan mentioned, connect with us on social media, go ahead and email us, go to our website. If you want to have a more in-depth conversation, like Selena mentioned, we're available for advising. We can sit down and talk specifically about your organization and brainstorm some ideas what you can do to move forward.
And then while you're enjoying dance or Peter the Anteater there, we will wrap up the presentation. We sincerely thank you for your time, your participation, your comments, your feedback. And just as a reminder, know that this will also be provided on our website for folks that maybe couldn't make it. If you want to forward it to your members, feel free. And we hope to connect with you very soon. Thank you all.